101. Music 101 is created to empower music itself and legendary icon in the music industry. And today we have a great topic, another week for sure, and great time on Music 101. Mick Rolf's dies at 81, remembering the bad company and not their Hoople guitar legend.
Yes, indeed. This is about Martha Hoople's glam rock anthems to Bad Company's stadium-filling hits. Ralph's created a soundtrack of a generation, and he was in one of my original favorite bands, and that was Martha Hoople, and later on, solo career and longtime associate with Ian Hunter.
Yes, Mr. Mick, thank you so much for sharing your legendary music to the world. With the recent passing of Mick Rolfs, can you introduce him to fans or those who might want to be?
Yes, indeed. You know it don't come easy. That's a nod to Ringo Starr. And it ain't easy when you fall with the passing of Mick Ralph's Ralpher to fans. This is an Ian Hunter song that has a double meaning. In a competitive but often other times easygoing manner between bandmates and musicians, the Ian Hunter Mick Ralph's collaboration stands out. As a guitarist, Ralphs was never flashy. He played with feel, not fuss, favoring punchy chord riffs, melodic solos, and a blues-informed touch that served the song above all else. Though modest about his own accomplishments, Ralphs was a versatile and skillful guitarist who could play anything from crunchy power chords to delicate acoustic picking, and also was a major songwriter contributor. The bandmates were the standouts originally in Mott the Hoople, Ralph's a founding member, and Ian joining them before their first record in 1969. Hunter penned It Ain't Easy When You Fall for Mick. The song appears on Ian Hunter's 1975 debut solo album and contains traveling imagery. You talk of ships, you talk of boats, you talk of games. Not surprisingly, for a mostly touring band and Mick's reluctance about touring and traveling. The theme is friendship about someone who has fallen on hard times and is no longer around, which in the context of Ralph's and Hunter relates to his departure from Mott the Hoople to be a founding member of Bad Company. In conclusion, bandmates Ralphs and Hunter were friends and musical partners while in Mott the Hoople.
And Mr. Mick, how did Ralph get his start in music, and how did he contribute to Matt the Hoople?
Ralphs was born in Stoke Lacey in Herefordshire. I'm a country boy, he would say later, originally from Herefordshire, where the cattle come from. He began his music career in his teens and recalled being inspired by Booker T's and the MG's hit Green Onions. He originally played in a blues rock band, the Buddies, and they released one single, It's Goodbye, which they sold at gigs. The song is included on Mott the Hoople All the Young Dudes, the anthology. After the single was released, Stan Tippins replaced Les Norman as the vocalist in November 1965, and he convinced the band to bring in Overend Watts. The band played in Germany and then changed their name to The Problem. During a later tour of Germany, Dave Mason of Traffic deputized for Pete Watts, who was ill at the time. Mason then suggested another name change to the Doc Thomas Group, inspired by the blues phrasing of Steve Cropper and Albert King, and Mick started on rhythm guitar. They released an album in Italy while they were gigging there with Tippins on lead. The band would change their name to Silence before rebranding to Mott the Hoople in 1969. Ralphs would remain a member of the band and feature on their first 6 albums, earning praise from fans largely because of Mott's stage act. They were a successful touring and live act, but they couldn't break into the charts. The band broke up when they thought they were at the end of their rope, appearing in a converted gas tank as a live gig in Switzerland. What could be worse than no hits on the charts and playing a dead end gig? It appeared that they had hit rock bottom. What appeared to be their denouement was originally documented by Hunter in his song, The Ballad of Mott the Hoople. This was a song written by the entire band, and it's self reflective and resigned to their fate. Hunter recounts the story of how Mott broke up, mentioning each of his bandmates by name, to wit, Mick lost his guitar. Mick losing his guitar story was important to the band and its persona. For Ian Hunter, the tale of a mislaid guitar has been the substance of Mott the Hoople's 1973 classic, All the Way from Memphis. The key line is about the forgotten six string razor that relates the tale in context. That was really a bit of poetic license, Hunter admits. Lead guitarist Mick Ralph's guitar was actually stolen at a gig in Long Island a little earlier on our American tour in late 72, not left behind. Ralph's also had a fear of flying, recall Hunter's song, and Mick's reluctance to travel. Thus, Hunter worried he might skip the Memphis gig after his guitar got lifted. All he had to do was go back to England, and it would have been all over, Hunter says, which I figured he would do. But in the end, he did the gig. All the way from Memphis arose in Hunter's home in Wembley, London in 1973. I had just gotten married and we had this old upright piano with all the white notes gone, he recalls. So I started playing around with the black notes, and that's how the music came together. But the lyrics took weeks. It was while musing over the dramas of that 1972 tour that Hunter suddenly happened upon the song's subject matter. I remembered we'd done that gig in Memphis just before Christmas when Joe Walsh was opening for us, he explains. I actually know that era well since the following year I saw Mott the Hoople with Joe Walsh and Barnstorm at the Hollywood Palladium. Hunter relates a lot of weird things happened. We were told nobody was going to be at the gig, but we hit the stage to a full house. It was kind of a magic night, so the lyric was based around that. The difficult for touring rock bands to make any money comes through, though, since Mott owed time and money to their record label. Ralph's lead guitar reinforces the lyric's predicament as perfectly encapsulated in the line, "You look like a star, but you're still on the dole." Welfare in England is called the dole. Hunter agrees. People don't realize the investment that goes into it all, which the artist has to get to pay off. All this stuff costs money, and the labels have to recoup it. That's why back then you'd see an artist with a top five single and a platinum album, but they were broke. It was not unusual for labels to front the money, promote the band, but then the band found out belatedly that they were deeply in debt. It reminds me of Tennessee Ernie Ford's classic, 16 Tons. When it came time to record the song, the group entered Abbey Road Studios to lay it down for their next album, Mott. Ralphs recorded his blistering lead lines using his standard guitar and amp setup of a Les Paul Jr. into a Marshall amp. Mick was mainly a Les Paul man, Hunter recalls. We had a great engineer in Bill Price who improved everything we did. That helped a lot to make everything sound great. Mott already had a strong following in the UK, where All the Way from Memphis climbed to number 10 on the charts. In the US, the group's record label prioritized it to album oriented FM radio stations rather than the top 40 AM stations, and the song failed to chart. Columbia Records really didn't know how to market us, Hunter says. They thought we were an FM band, so they weren't pushing any AM singles. We said, well, it doesn't seem to be doing the Rolling Stones any harm, as we're getting pushed on both AM and they were on both AM and FM. But for some reason, they just pushed us to FM and it never got airplay. Regardless, Mott, the album, hit an impressive number 35 on the Billboard Top 200 chart and helped All the Way from Memphis reach a wider audience than the band's previous efforts. The song remains a fan favorite and has been covered by Brian May from Queen, who included it on his 1998 solo album, Another World, aided by Hunter. Brian was lovely to work with, a great guitar player and a great person, Hunter reveals, and he's a very serious kind of guy. We did the Astoria in London one time, and Brian was going to get up and play with us, but he's very picky about his guitar, especially his red special. I was with him in the dressing room trying to explain something about the song. I said, "Here, wait a minute," and took his guitar off him to show him what I was trying to explain. And you should have seen the look on his face. He was petrified. He was so scared. There's just something about guitars and that song. In conclusion, by hindsight, even an enduring song such as All the Way from Memphis failed to break the band out of living on the dole.
Mr. Mick, what can you tell us about the songs Ralph's contributed to Mott?
Among Muck's best known songs with Mick in Mott the Hoople were Rock and Roll Queen, which figured heavily in their live performances. Midnight Lady was also a highlight from their live set. It Must Be Love revealed Ralph's penchant for country rock. Home is Where I Want to Be is a gentle tune and has a country flavor as well. Other songs not mentioned already and written or co written by Ralph's include those from their self titled debut album, Rabbit Foot and Toby Time, Half Moon Bay, Find Your Way from Mad Shadows, Thunderbuck Ram, and a live version of it exists of a performance at Hills, Threads of Iron from Wildlife, Whiskey Women, Wrong Side of the River, It Must Be Love from Brain Capers, The Moon Upstairs, and from the LP All the Young Dudes, Sucker, and One of the Boys, and along with Ready for Love After Lights. This song proved to be prophetic because not only was it an important component of Mott, but it would prove to be important for his next musical venture. Ralphs had been playing for just 4 years, but he was already regarded as an all arounder, the kind of player who could flat pick or strum rhythm at any speed, launch into a rip roaring slide, and then sear with an emotion packed solo, pulling out everything from bent blues notes to flashy side of the pick harmonics. I went back and got the lads and said, "Come on, I know a few people in London. Let's try and get ourselves a deal," he recalled in an interview from a guitar player. Then, through an old friend of mine, guitarist Dave Mason, I was introduced to a guy from Island Records. It was Ralph's that had it to fire since he pushed to get a hearing with Island Records, which at the time was notable for taking chances with bands and allowing them to develop. Ralph's got in touch with Island Records producer and A&R man Guy Stevens, who auditioned them in early 1969. He wanted to sign them, but was not impressed by their vocalist, Stan Tippins. The band needed a singer when Tippins became the band's road manager, and the band became Mott the Hoople, the name taken from a novel by Willard Manus. According to Mick, to cut a long story short, we got a deal with Island. The band had a deal with Island, but unfortunately, no lead singer. Hunter got a ring from a musical associate about the opening vocal slot, and at the audition sang a Bob Dylan song along with Sonny Bono's Laugh at Me, and he got the nod. They were signed as Mott the Hoople with the new singer. Mott was a good band, but had difficulty at first breaking into the US market. Went through a lot of different styles, Ralph said. We started out playing some of our own songs, some rhythm and blues, and some blues tunes. Then our manager with the guiding light, Guy Stevens, decided that we should do a Bob Dylan blonde on blonde type thing. I liked the way Robbie Robertson played guitar with Dylan, so I was into that. We had an organ player, Burton Allen, so I could play more lead guitar instead of having to keep the rhythm together. Then I would just sit back and keep the rhythm section together by filling in with chords while the organ player would do his thing. I also started playing the piano a little bit when I joined the group. Eventually, though, it began to feel like a grind. The group was getting more and more away from what we started out as, a rock and roll band, Ralphs explained. It was a good, fun band, like a street band. We never made any money, but we were out there having a hell of a good time, and that was all that mattered. But we got to the point where we were disillusioned in as much as we were working our asses off and not really getting anywhere. We weren't on the charts and we weren't selling any records. We were just like a cult band. Before their breakout, the highest selling album in either the UK or the US was Wildlife 1971, which only reached number 44 in the UK. In conclusion, the particular gig that led to their breakup was held in a converted gas tank or a gas holder in Switzerland and was so demoralizing that it led to their decision to break up.
Mr. Mick, isn't not this where David Bowie step in?
Exactly. This is when David Bowie stepped in. Bowie had long been a fan of the band, but they didn't know it yet. And David was not quite Bowie yet since his career was still building at the time. Ringing Bowie up looking for work, bass player Pete Overend Watts told him that they were about to split, and the horrified David offered them a song that they knew from the first hearing was a hit. All the Young Dudes was their commercial breakthrough and gave them a second lease on life. Bowie also offered to co produce their album with the same name, quite the fan. In 1972, David Bowie was just enjoying a career breakthrough with his album The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. He thought Dudes was perfect for Mott. Ralphs remembers the song's gifts as David Bowie came along one day and said, "Well, don't break up. I've got a song that I'd like you to record, regardless of whether you decide to release it or not. I just want you to try," Ralphs recalled. According to Mick, it was the salvation of the band. It was a big hit in England and America, putting the group on the map. After both the song and producing an album, Bowie stayed on, and the next album was even bigger. Simply titled Mott, it was a top 10 record in the UK and became the group's bestseller in the US, helped along by the singles Honolulu Boogie and the aforementioned All the Way from Memphis. The Mott LP was a crucial time for the band. Hunter and Ralphs collaborated on a song that was indicative of the split to come, that is, the tune Violence, and the band was sort of breaking up. They also collaborated on Driving Sister, played it live at the Hammersmith Odeum. The entire band contributed to the Ballad of Mott the Hoople about their story of breaking up in Switzerland and documented it as their denouement song. And Rose, the B side of Honolulu Boogie, was a joint effort. Despite appearances of more collaboration within the band, tensions had elevated, but not before Mick could contribute his standout extended song, I'm a Cadillac El Camino Doloroso. The El Camino Doloroso coda demonstrates Ralph's at his virtual peak, a beautiful, tasteful guitar piece that illustrates just how melodic his compositions could be. But for Rouse, the writing was on the wall. He was dissatisfied with the group's new status as a glam rock act. We got so closely associated with David Bowie, we couldn't get away from that, he said. It was like we were tagged as a glitter group. Then in the end, I got the feeling that it was just playing guitar. I could have been anybody up there, not necessarily me. He was also unhappy about Hunter's performances on his songs. Mod had included an early version of a song that would later become a famous via Bad Company, Ready for Love. In fact, Ralphs had already written other songs that would become hits for Bad Company, but none of them seemed a good fit for Hunter. I had songs like Can't Get Enough and Moving On, which were never used with Mott because Ian Hunter couldn't sing them, Ralph said. It's not a derogatory remark about Ian. It's just not his style. He was more into screaming about politics, and I was into singing about being on the road and the usual things blues songs are about, the day to day things. It got to the point where Ian and I were clashing, and I said, Look, you do what you want to do, and I'll go off and do what I want to do. If I met him today, I'm sure I'd get on really well with him. It just got to the point where we couldn't work together anymore. In conclusion, Ralph's made a major contribution to the band, but over time there was diminishing interest in the group effort.
Mr. Mick, was the breaking point for Mick to leave Matt, the Hoople, and survey the career of the Bad Company?
Ralph's left Mott the Hoople in 1973, shortly after the band achieved their commercial breakthrough with the Bowie penned hit. The straw that broke the camel's back was the glam movement. Mick was not thrilled with the Bowie glam influence and started looking for an alternative. Ralph's was seeking more of a stripped down rock and roll outfit without the costumes and showy elements of glam. He found an alternative in Bad Company. It's Free's ex Free Paul Rogers and Rouse had intended only to write songs together and possibly to make a one off album as a project. But when Free drummer Simon Kirk asked to sit in, they realized that they were nearly a proper group already and went seeking a bassist. They found him in former King Crimson member Boz Burrell. Rogers' bluesy, soulful voice had been the trademark of Free and their worldwide hit, All Right Now. Free had split up and Rogers had been forming with the band Peace, but he and Ralphs quickly struck up a strong musical partnership and found that between them they had a dozen or more songs they had written, but none had been used. We actually didn't plan to have a band, Ralph said in the 2015 interview with Gibson Guitars. It was all kind of accidental, I suppose. Lucky, really. Bad Company had the advantage of becoming one of the first bands to sign with Led Zeppelin's Swan Song label after they found management in Led Zeppelin's manager, Peter Grant. Bad Company's 1974 self titled debut album was an instant hit, going 5 times platinum, backed by the Ralph's Penn single, Can't Get Enough. But Mick was not done, and he revamped Mott's Ready for Love. During Ralph's tenure with Bad Company, in addition to these two hit songs, the group released more hits, Can't Get Enough and Silver, Blue, and Gold. In the quiet, beautiful glow of this song, his guitar still sings what words can't say. Two other songs were hits, Shooting Star and Rocksteady. Can't Get Enough is often mistakenly called Can't Get Enough of Your Love because of its chorus lyrics, which would be their biggest hit single, peaking at number 5 at the Billboard Hot 100. We actually did the whole thing in one live take, Ralph said in an interview. It wasn't perfect, but we just said, yeah, that's great. It's going to capture the moment. That's what I like to do in recording. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as it captures the moment. That's what it's all about. Their 1974 self titled debut album was their only number 1 album on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 3 in the UK. With immediate success, the band's albums were full of radio ready anthems, and its live sound was perfectly suited to the 1970s height of arena rock. Bad Company's 1975 follow up, Straight Shooter, was also a hit, going to number 3 on album charts in both the Billboard Hot 100 in the US and the UK albums chart. Its opening track, Good Lovin' Gone Bad, written by Ralphs, reached its highest chart position at number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US, when it also was a top 40 hit in the UK. The follow up, Feel Like Making Love, reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and would remain in rotation on classic rock radio for decades. Bad Company's first three albums all reached the US and UK top five, and after a slight falling off in sales with Burning Sky 1977, they scored another blockbuster with Desolation Angels in 1979. With this, Rouse was also featured on a lot of the guitar magazines at the time. The group disbanded after the release of Rough Diamonds 1982, with Rouse commenting, Bad Company had become bigger than all of us, and to continue would have destroyed someone or something. When Bad Company reformed in 1986 with Brian Howe as lead vocalist, Mick Rouse was indeed part of that lineup, serving as lead guitarist from 1986 to 1999. However, Paul Rodgers was not part of that reform band. He had left Bad Company, and Brian Howe was brought in specifically to replace Rodgers as the vocalist. The reformed lineup with Brian Howe went on to achieve additional success, including the platinum certified album Holy Water. Howe remained with the band until 1994. From 1994 until 1998, yet another version of the group featured Robert Hart as lead vocalist, but by then the original Bad Company magic had largely dissipated. In conclusion, Mick had a good run with Bad Company, but he had other projects in mind at that point.
Mr. Mick, what can you tell us about Ralph's post Bad Company career?
Outside the group, Ralph's released the solo albums Take This in 84, the live album It's All Good in 2001, and That's Life in 2003. In the 21st century, assorted iterations of Bad Company featuring the trio of Ralphs, Rodgers, and Kirk once again took to the road, touring in Britain and the US in 2009. 2010. In 2013, Bad Company joined Lynyrd Skynyrd for a joint 40th year anniversary tour. He also made two albums with the Mick Ralphs Blues Band, I Should Have Known Better in 2019 and If It Ain't Broke 2016. And with this, also in 1984, he was a part of David Gilmour's touring band promoting Gilmour's solo album About Face. He became friendly with George Harrison. They were neighbors in Henley-on-Thames, and they co-wrote the song Flying Hour. This was released in 1988 on an EP included with copies of the limited edition book Songs by George Harrison. And with this post Bad Company career, Ralph's final performance took place in 2016 when he played in the O2 Arena in London. In conclusion, Mick played up until he suffered a debilitating stroke and was bedridden and in a nursing home until the end of his life.
Mr. Mick, what is the upshot of his career and what is the tribute of his playing and songwriting?
Ralphs has received deserved recognition since Ralph's passing comes just months ahead of Bad Company's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later this year. Per Rolling Stone, he said he was elated about the induction in the email to Billboard earlier this year and per an Instagram post. There's also a heartfelt tribute for me and Hunter, recalling Mick Ralphs with warmth and camaraderie. What Ian Hunter said in the short tribute, Hunter describes Ralphs as my friend, offering a simple but powerful farewell. Goodbye, my friend. Though concise, his words, delivered with measured affection, reflect decades of a close bond between Mott the Hoople, underscoring Ralph's enduring impact both personally and musically. This expression isn't just a polite condolence, it's a musician's salute, a peer's recognition of Ralph's talent and character. Ian's use of my friend conveys a deep sense of loss shared by those who knew him best. In conclusion, no elaborate eulogy, but in a few honest words, Ian Hunter encapsulates the respect and affection Ralph's inspired among his fellow artists.
Indeed, and we salute you, Mr. Mick, for giving your music to the world. Thank you for the legacy. And Mick Ralph, the legendary guitarist and co-founder of Bad Company and the Matt the Hoople, has passed away at the age of 81. Known of his bluesy riff and rock solid songwriting. Mr. Mick, would you like to plug in something?
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity. That's Create a Valued Book in 90 Days. You can meet me on G.Mick, the Doctor of Digital Smith, on LinkedIn. You can also pick up a couple of volumes, one on Ian Hunter and Amazon, and also Burning America. The Idea Author Coach, Create a Valued Book in 90 Days. G.Mick, the Doctor of Digital. Listen to the podcast for more information.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Mick, the Doctor of Digital, because if you support him for sure. and more empowering offers to come for sure. And please do listen to our baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Mental Health 101 is created to empower our mental health awareness. So, Mr. Mick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel, my friend. Until next time, stay as full.
More to come, people. See you soon.